Hello, and welcome to the fifth video in a series on the tabletop role-playing game Bunkers and Badasses. In this video, we'll be discussing environments and actions. Let's start with checks. A check is used to resolve a task. They are normally made out of combat, but can be made during combat as well. The difficulty of a check is determined by the GM. A player rolls a d20 and adds any relevant bonuses. If the player fails, a mayhem point is generated. I'll discuss more on mayhem later in this video. There are 6 main types of checks. Interact checks involve a character doing tasks such as picking locks or disarming traps. Talk checks involve interpersonal interactions such as persuasion, deception, or intimidation. Insight checks involve personal knowledge of other people or facts. This may include knowing when someone is lying to you or recalling trivia, a skill, or how to solve a puzzle. Search checks involve perceiving a particular object like a tripwire, a secret door, or animal tracks. Sneak checks involve maneuvering an environment while undetected by enemies. Traverse checks involve any movement that is beyond simply running, such as swimming, jumping, or climbing. Now, let's discuss environment. Game environments are often dotted with hazards such as elemental barrels. These barrels match a particular element type and can be thrown or shot. Barrels explode on impact and deal damage of its respective element. After impact, the barrel leaves a puddle of liquid which deals elemental damage to any creature entering that space. Environments contain numerous objects which can provide cover from enemy sight, such as walls, trees, or rocks. The 2 types of cover are partial cover and full cover. Partial cover gives a -3 accuracy modifier to ranged accuracy rolls. This affects any creature attacking towards or from partial cover. Outside of combat, a creature gains a +3 sneak check modifier when in partial cover. Full cover gives a -8 accuracy modifier to ranged accuracy rolls. This affects any creature attacking towards or from full cover. Outside of combat, a creature gains a +8 sneak check modifier when in full cover. Let's get into combat, starting with initiative. Players will roll a d20 and add their speed modifier, their badass rank, and any other initiative modifiers. This will be compared to the enemy's highest badass rank. Any players who rolled equal to or higher than the enemy's highest badass rank will act during the before enemies phase. All enemies act together after the before enemies phase and before the after enemies phase. Enemies have a variety of actions they can perform listed on their stat block. Enemies can use any generated mayhem to perform mayhem actions, which are often more powerful and disruptive to players. Any players who rolled lower than the enemy's highest badass rank will act in the after enemies phase. Players within the same phase choose their order democratically amongst themselves. Players who have skills, feats, or items which can boost the whole party, such as a Berserker's Master Blaster skill, should try to act first. Players can do the following actions on their turn in any order. Movement allows a player to move 3 squares on a grid, plus a number of squares equal to their speed modifier. Players can attack with a ranged attack or melee attack in the manner described on page 60 of the sourcebook. This involves rolling an accuracy roll to hit, determining what accuracy range was rolled, and rolling for damage depending on that range. Players can use their action skill. Using rules as written, the action skill replaces all attacks for the player's turn, including extra attacks. Players can throw an item, such as a potion or grenade. If the player throws the item to a space within a number of squares equal to their damage modifier, the throw automatically succeeds. For spaces beyond their damage modifier, the throw has a chance to succeed depending on the player's accuracy modifier. If available, the player can drink a potion. Players can hold their action until a condition is met, or to help with a badass move. If the condition is not met, the player acts last in the after enemies phase. Players can also take the following actions in any order but will generate mayhem. The player can swap equipped guns. If a player rolls a natural 1 on accuracy rolls or chooses to voluntarily, they will reload their gun. A player can make an extra attack. A player can also use extra movement. Extra attacks and extra movement granted from skills, feats, or items do not generate mayhem. A player can hand off an item to a player directly adjacent to their space. A player can perform a check during combat. Failing that check will generate another mayhem. A player can forego their turn and is allowed to do one badass move per day. More information is on pages 62 and 72 of the sourcebook. Its difficulty is determined by the GM and uses a unique roll on the D20. If a player succeeds, they earn badass tokens and are allowed to use their base stats and not their stat modifiers for the rest of the turn. If a player fails, they still earn some badass tokens and generate mayhem. Players in the same acting phase can help each other during a badass move. Players can hold action to help with a badass move in the after enemies phase. Any assisting player forgoes their turn as well. Assisting players can earn tokens, but they won't be able to use their base stats on a success. Badass tokens can be spent to add +1 modifier per token to any roll. A badass token can also be spent to perform another badass move per day. The extra badass move costs 1 token, and any subsequent badass moves cost 1 more token than the previous badass move. After the after enemies phase is the end of turn. Any effects or bonuses that last for the current turn end at this point. If a player did not take shield or health damage during the turn, the shield recharges an amount equal to its recharge rate up to the maximum shield capacity. For example, if a shield has 40 maximum shield capacity, 30 current shield points, and a recharge rate of 20, the shield would recharge 20 points, but recharges 10 instead due to the maximum shield capacity being 40. If a player has not taken any health damage during the turn, the player gains any health regen effects from applicable skills, action skill, or items. If a player's health ever reaches 0, they die. They can be revived and will often return with a temporary or permanent trauma which affects gameplay. That wraps it up for this video. In the next video, I'll discuss some rules clarifications. Thanks for watching.